Live from the 607, it is the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Why don't you join in the conversation with the hashtag ODPH? Here we go. And welcome back to another edition of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. I am your host, Ken M. Sitting to the right of me is the intern himself, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And across the table, which we're just going to get started right with the show because he is chomping at the bit to get on the microphone and let y'all know his pick for the Super Bowl is the one and only sound guy galore, JR.
Simply put, I told you so.
That he did, and he's going to tell you some more about it. Breaking down the biggest game of the weekend by far.
By far.
Why don't you give our listeners a little taste of the SKOL Nation here?
Listen. Hey, I've told you right along here. You need to be a part of SKOL Nation. Case Keenum's the real deal. I'm all on board. Made a clutch throw of the year.
Arguably.
There's no question. It is the throw of the year.
Thus
the
far.
catch. Oh, thus far.
Thus far.
Right when he does it again in the Super Bowl, that'll be clutch year because that is the grandstand of the NFL.
This is true, but they got to get there first.
Oh, they will.
Which we'll
I
be
told
discussing.
you last week.
We'll be discussing a little later in the show, but I know you did tell us.
Yep.
Because you don't want to pull what the Steelers did against Jacksonville and call their shot against New England because we all knew how that turned out.
Yep. They can play him in Madden.
This is true. If you have been living under a rock and you haven't been following the football scores, the Pittsburgh Steelers were the biggest upset of the weekend by getting defeated by the Jacksonville Jaguars at home in one of the, dare I say, wilder games that we've seen in these playoffs.
Yeah, I was at work when this game was going down, and I sat down on a break about halfway through the second quarter or so, and I looked up, and it was like 21-7 or something like that, and I'm like, what in the world is going on here?
Simply put, Jacksonville came out and they were fired up that certain Steelers are making comments that they're already looking towards New England, kind of looking past them. And the Jags, hey, to their credit, decided to take their aggression out on the field. Leonard Fournette had a huge game and definitely set the tone in the first quarter. The defense was playing lights out as they had been doing all season, and they jumped out to a 28-7 lead. I pretty much thought the game was over. I actually turned it off because it was just that ugly of a first half. Lo and behold, the Steelers made a triumphant comeback and got it close. Albeit, though, there was a couple questionable decisions if you want to play armchair quarterback about what to do on the couple fourth downs. Did they make the right calls? I don't know. I guess you can kind of say I would have done it differently if I was a head coach, but I'm not paid to be a head coach. I'm paid to be a fan by somebody. Needless to say, Jacksonville took advantage of the Steelers' mistakes. And when the Steelers had an ill-fated onside kick, which I'll ask the panel, was that too early to have kicked?
I think so. Definitely. Like, I can understand if it was maybe a couple minutes later, but at that point in the game, yeah, I was sitting there scratching my head a little bit.
JR?
I did not watch this game as I was pre-gaming for my game, which was a lot more important to me. So I honestly was not following this game at all. I did the same thing you did. I saw at halftime. I'm like, wow, that's an awesome way to get humiliated at home. Change the channel, and I was prepping myself for the next couple hours for the Vikings game.
Yeah, I mean, I saw when they set up for it, and I guess there's two ways you can look at it. You have Antonio Brown, who was taking over that game slowly but surely in the second half. Did you think that maybe your defense wasn't going to hold up? That was the other train of thought, that your defense had been struggling all game, and stats don't lie, they were struggling. Did you think that the kick, if you went deep, you wouldn't be able to hold them and they'd run down the field on you? Or did you think that, if we got the onside, we can score quick with Antonio Brown, do something to, swing momentum back our way? I don't know. It's a catch-22. I didn't fault Tomlin as bad as some fans were doing. I thought, it's a coin flip. Would I have done it? Probably not. But then again, if I really felt that my defense was struggling as bad as the Steelers were, especially that first half, you got to take advantage of the opportunity when it's there.
I'll say it's going to happen to every coach at some point in their coaching career. I as a Patriots fan, I remember a couple of years ago it happened to Belichick in Indianapolis. Now, I can't remember if Manning was there or not. Probably, because, Lord, those games were always nail-biters. But New England's defense wasn't that great, and he gambled on, it was like a 4th and 3, 4th and 2 or something like that, and it was like within 10 yards, their backs were to the end zone. Just because he had no faith in his defense, and they didn't get the first down, turned it over, and Indy ultimately won the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's always kind of a coin flip when that happens. No matter what you do, you're always going to be called out. If it works, you're great. If it doesn't, you're in trouble.
Well, now, and of course, you've got the fallout from that game where the offensive coordinator, Todd Haley, is out. They've promoted their quarterbacks coach, Randy Fitchner, to their offensive coordinator. And there are rumblings that there are people within the organization putting together a petition to get Mike Tomlin out, which to me is just crazy.
It's insane. He has not had a losing season, if I have read correctly. Why would you want to run him out? Especially the call wasn't the worst, but then again, you were struggling all game. Jacksonville stepped up. Steelers, in my opinion, looked past Jacksonville, and they got caught for it.
And I said they wouldn't because I figured they would look back at that game they had earlier in the season where Ben threw 5 interceptions and go, hey, we looked past this team once and look what they did. We can't do this again. But the quotes coming out that they were ready to face New England in the AFC Championship game clearly said otherwise.
And obviously that won't be happening this season. So,
no.
I mean, I don't think they should fire Tomlin, but it's not my call to make. I don't think it was warranting a firing.
No, I wouldn't fire him either. Yeah, he's not won that many Super Bowls, but you look at the caliber of the NFL in general. You've got the New England doing everything they've got. You've got the NFC doing what they got. I mean, it's not the era where it was the Steelers and the Cowboys and everybody else.
Absolutely. And looking at the other AFC game of the weekend, I mean, New England came out ready to play against Tennessee. They didn't look past them at all.
No, they were really looking real good. Little questionable that first quarter there, but once the left tackle for Tennessee came out, that left side of the offensive line was just exposed.
Yeah, and
holy moly.
When that happened, the floodgates opened.
It was like, I think they set a team record 7 sacks in a playoff game or something like that.
It's somewhere around there. I know that.
Like, I remember they posted about it on Facebook. I was like, wait, really?
And that showed that they were ready to play the team that was right in front of them. They were not taking anything for granted. So you got to give kudos to that. And the Patriots have been down this road before. So there was no question about that. They showed up. They were ready to go. And you really can't fault them either way. Flipping it to the NFC, though, Philadelphia snuck one out against Atlanta.
Yeah, that was just crazy.
That was a wild game to watch, too. And you got to say, was it the right play call at the end with on the goal line stance? I don't know. I guess I am used to running it up through the middle of the line as much as possible. But I could understand that if Atlanta was in a hurry to try reclaiming the lead, especially with time slipping, you got to do what you got to do. Julio Jones slipping did not help matters, and he tried making the best play he could with what he had. But it kind of looked like it was a broken play, in my opinion, and Philly took advantage of it.
Well, and I'm with you there on the I'm used to running the ball right up the middle, quote-unquote running it down their throats, as it were. But you look at the stats for that game. The Falcons had 86 rushing yards total, and the Eagles had 96 yards of rushing total. So for that entire game, rushing wasn't real effective. So I can understand why they didn't.
No, and it makes sense. But it was just one of those, like I said, we can always play armchair quarterback. I would have made that call, but that is me. But looking in hindsight, if it went through, I mean, Matt Ryan had the right idea. Go to your best player on the field. And just unfortunately it didn't work. And, Philly is now in the title game. And you can't go wrong with that. Going forward, though, they got a tough opponent coming in, which, JR, do you want to just give the breakdown of the game?
I'm just going to say this. Philadelphia better be scared. And I mean really scared. Because that was pitiful. That was an ugly game they played. It was a sloppy game they played. And the very first drive of that game, in true Philadelphia fashion, boo birds were flying with Nick Foles' first throw. That was an absolute duck if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, that was not a good throw.
And first of all, it's 20 yards short. The ball is rotating sideways, which is exciting. And I can promise you against Minnesota, that ball's picked. So you better watch yourselves, boys. I'm going to say that. It's going to be a good game.
Absolutely. And then Minnesota, New Orleans.
awesome. Defense, number 1 in the NFL for a reason. 16-0 shutout at the half. Breeze looks like who? Looked terrible. That whole team looked terrible. Like I told you they were week 1. Seal the deal off. Sign, seal, deliver, baby. Stephon Diggs, Case Keenum. Case Keenum is your MVP. Sign off in the distance. We'll see you in Philadelphia.
Well, asterisk. How about that entire third quarter and then all but the last 10 seconds of that fourth quarter?
Yeah, when you play prevent defense, that's what happens. They took their foot off the gas. That's exactly what
I
happened.
was about to say the same thing.
They came out. They established their dominance. That's all they did. Then you go with the handoffs, the 3-and-outs, the whatever until they prove themselves.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh.
I was messaging a friend of mine during the game, and I was watching. I was very intrigued by this game because, like I said last week, this was probably the game I was interested in the most. And that whole entire first half, it was just go, 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 go for the Minnesota offense. They come out in the second half, and it's like they're taking their time. I'm like, where's the hurry? Where's the, if this was working so well in the first half, why would you stop?
Well, it was the defense. I mean, the defense came out. They had their foot on the gas. Sacked Eddie Everson-Griffin with this strip fumble. I mean, they were just all up in Drew Brees' grill, and he's having bad throws. He had the 2 picks. I mean, he looks sloppy. The offense is going nowhere. The running game is no good. I mean, they came out and showed why they were number one in defense, but then they completely backed off in the second half. They were. I honestly think they probably got a little gas because they were going so hard.
That
just
might be
constant pressure, and then they established their dominance, like I said, and then they started coasting a little bit, but
that almost came back to haunt them. Almost is a keyword.
Oh yeah, okay.
No, it did.
It did not. It was fine.
You can say that now.
Never a doubt.
You can say that now.
Never a doubt.
I will.
If they don't call that
timeout
when New Orleans gets that field goal, time runs out and there's no 10-second play. So I got to give the Minnesota coaching staff credit for taking that timeout because that timeout was crucial.
They rebounded quickly from losing the lead late. And you can't argue that fact because if they do that against Philly or if they go further in the playoffs to the Super Bowl and they take the gas pedal off, they're going to be in trouble. However, it's a lesson learned. It's a lesson learned. And because when you're facing an elite quarterback like Breeze, if you give him time to pick your defense apart, he'll do it. And he showed it. But Minnesota hung in there. And dare I say, Case Keenum did what he should do, is find a way to win if he's going to be leading that team. And Stephon Diggs made an impressive catch, albeit the Saints defense laid off the ball and went for the wrong angle to tackle. But he took full advantage of it, as he should.
Yeah.
Because I think, just looking at it, and like I said, this is all my opinion, I think he was worried about getting a pass interference penalty that would put him in field goal range if he hit him anywhere high. And I think instead of just keeping him in bounds, he went low, and it turned out to backfire on him.
See, I was looking at it, and I know we had this discussion. I was looking at it. I thought he was trying to upend him, keep him in bounds so that he goes down. He's not out of bounds. Clock runs. Game over.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about your perception about what you think was going to happen there. But Diggs did what he should have done. Is he got the ball and he made a play, and he won that game in historic fashion because that moment, the Minnesota Miracle, as it's being called by some, not our sound guy,
nope,
but by some, is going to be one of those iconic moments that you saw and you just go, did this really happen?
Oh, it's going to win an ESPY.
It's going to get replayed on sports channels for a while,
and it should because it's why we watch sports, folks, for moments like that. And now going into next week, there's 2 big games left. And then there's going to be 1. We're going to take a quick break and break those down to you a little later, but we got some UFC to talk about next segment here on the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. We're now on iTunes. That's right. The Ocho Duro Parlay Hour is now on iTunes. So download, rate, and subscribe. Spread the word, and thank you for listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour.
I'm the street light guiding you home. Avoid the wrong step into.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH. And there's a big, did I say big because I meant big, UFC card this weekend, UFC 220.
Is it big?
I think so. If you got 2 title fights of this proportion going down, you have your light heavyweight title, Daniel Cormier against Volkan, and you have your heavyweight title fight, Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou. Dare I say, this is not going to be one of those boring fights. Somebody is probably going to get knocked out, possibly in both.
Possibly.
Because Cormier's style, we'll break that one down first. Cormier's style is wrestling-based.
Yep.
He is going to go for finishes. Volkan, I'll be honest, he has not fought long enough in a fight to really see what he's fully capable of. Albeit, though, he's been knocking everybody out the first round. Can he do it to Cormier?
It's entirely possible.
It is.
But does that work against him, knowing that Cormier, if he just drags it to the third round, can test his endurance right off the top?
Absolutely. I think...
Is that the strategy?
I think so.
To create a boring, quote-unquote, fight that drags into the fourth round so then you can see if he's really got the gas to get there?
That's going to be the question. I think that's Cormier's strategy. And I think he has been in these situations before. He's fought your who's who of the 205 division. I think he knows exactly what he needs to do for this fight, and he's going to take it to the ground. There's no way he's going to stand with him.
No.
Absolutely not.
No, when he knows his opponent's got the knockout power that he's got, there's no way he's going to stand toe-to-toe with him.
Yeah, I mean, have we forgotten? He survived Rumble Johnson's epic right hand.
Yeah.
And it sounded like a gunshot went off in that fight, and he withstood it, which I don't know how he did, but, man, I'm not even going near him to mess with him about that. He absolutely looked awesome in that fight because he kept his composure, and he took him to the ground, and he finished him out. I sense it's going to be the same kind of fight in this one. Like I said, I haven't really seen too much of his opponent other than he's just been tearing through everybody's face. But if Cormier takes him to the ground, what's going to happen?
I think the fight's going to go one of two ways. If Cormier's opponent doesn't knock him out early, it's going to get dragged out, it's going to get drawn out, and then the guy, because we don't know his endurance, we don't know his stamina, if it goes multiple rounds, I foresee Cormier taking him to the ground and getting him by submission.
I can fully see that too. JR, you got a thought on this?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm always down for an awesome first round knockout. So I'm hoping that it's just fisticuffs, chiclets, and an all out fist fight. But strategy makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think DC is going to take this one. I'm not sure if it's going to be a submission early, or he might just take it to decision just to say he did. I don't think he does, though. I think he does get a submission third round.
So my question to both of you, though, for Cormier, is with the whole debacle with the John Jones deal, if he loses this fight, is he gone?
He said in an interview, I think it was yesterday, that it's not, that he's going to fight at least through the rest of the year.
But you say that. But if you lose, say, first round knockout and it's ugly.
Oh, this is Cormier saying that. He said, yeah, because I said I'm only going to fight till I'm 40. That doesn't mean I'm going to fight 5 times a year.
Yeah, I think he sticks around. Just the only question I would have is, all right, win, lose, or draw, who's next?
Yeah.
And that's going to be the real telling sign because 205 is not really as stacked as it has been in recent years. But there are some contenders up there. What's going to go on after this fight? That's going to be your true telling sign. I mean, like I said, I think Cormier does win this one. I think he has the champion mentality that he knows what he needs to do to finish this fight, and if he just imposes his will, I think it's going to be a no-brainer on this one. But then it's like, well, who do you fight after this? Obviously, John Jones is out of the question.
Yep.
And then the rest of your 205 division, he's pretty much ran through. So there's going to be a little question mark after this fight no matter what, but I think he does fight through the rest of the year, and then I think 2018 is probably the last year we see him fight, which is a shame, but I can understand if he's ran through that division, he's not going back up to heavyweight. There's no incentive to.
Yeah, and he said he's got no inkling of going back there.
No, and at this point, why? You're dominating at 205. Why go back up to heavyweight where you did have success? Don't get me wrong, but if Cain Velasquez is up there, your best friend and training buddy, why even try having that fight possibly happen? Because when Cain comes back, he's going to be in that title contention. And for as tight as they are, I just don't see that fight ever happening, other than a sparring session we'll never see.
Yeah, I'm looking at the light heavyweight rankings as they stand right now. Of course, Cormier is your champion. Number 1 ranked is Gustafsson. Number 2 is Volkan, who, of course, he is facing this weekend. 3rd is Glover Teixeira. 4th is Jimmy Manuwa. And rounding out the top 5, you've got Ovens St. Peru.
Yeah, so, I mean, it'll be kind of interesting to see who fights after that. I could see the Manuwa fight just because I know there's been like a little trash talk going on between them. But who knows? It's going to be DC's world depending on what happens. If he gets knocked out, I could see an immediate rematch depending on what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, there is money to that fight. If there's, for the UFC standpoint, you can definitely sell that fight. I don't know, but I do think, though, Cormier wins outright.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
And then going to the heavyweight title fight.
Oh, boy.
This is where it gets interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because in one hand, you have Stipe Miocic, who is dominating at that weight class. And everybody they've thrown at him, he's finding ways to win. And then you have Francis Ngannou, who is just knocking everybody out that he is facing.
Mm-hmm.
And he did arguably the scariest knockout I have ever seen was his knockout of Alistair Overeem.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
Absolutely. I mean, you want to talk about Rumble Johnson throwing a mean right hand? Ngannou with that uppercut. And just, if you have not seen it, find it on the internet and just brace yourself. That being said, I'm going to pass it around the panel first before I give my prediction on this. Pat, who do you got on this one?
Oh, Lord, this is like trying to pick your favorite kid. I would love to see either one of these two win. Stipe, of course, he'd be, the longest defending heavyweight champion?
I believe so.
If he wins, because nobody in the heavyweight division ever defends their title more than a few times. But then again, you've got Francis, who, like we said, the scariest knockout I've ever seen in my life. I'm going to go with the champion's mentality. Like we said, the guy who's been there. At some point, somebody's got to break this record. I'm going to say it's Stipe, and he will win.
Okay. JR?
I'm going with Francis because Pat just scared me with this knockout.
No, you're watching it now as we're...
Yeah, so it's I'm grossed out. I'm in.
Yeah.
Because your head shouldn't 360 on your neck. So, I'm out.
Yeah, okay. So the panel is split right now. So I'm looking at this. Miocic is an extreme underdog on this fight, which is kind of crazy. But it's territory he's used to. I don't think he's going to get fazed by that at all. And the question is going to be, can Miocic take Ngannou to the ground? Because I think if he tries standing with him, he is in for a very short fight. I don't know if he can, because I don't know what Ngannou has as far as a jiu-jitsu game or wrestling base. It's going to be the biggest X factor. If he can try getting a takedown and what happens after that. I sense Ngannou is going to knock him out. I don't know when. I think if he can block Miocic early from takedowns, I think Stipe might be in some trouble. So I'm going to make an early prediction. I'm going to say a third round knockout.
Third round? Oh, okay.
I think Miocic will be smart enough to try pinning him against the cage and working for a takedown the first two rounds.
Right.
I think the first one is going to be kind of a feeling out because he knows Ngannou is going to come in there swinging. So if he can kind of clinch up, withstand some shots, and pin him against the cage to try working him to the ground, I think that's his best option. And I think that's going to happen in the first round. I think the first round is going to be maybe a boring round. But I can definitely sense that as it goes on further, if Miocic is having trouble taking him down, which I sense he might, then I think Ngannou gets him in the third.
Yeah, the interesting thing here, I'm looking at UFC's website and their profile page for Francis Ngannou, and on their page they have a skill breakdown where it has striking, submissions, and takedown percent and a summary. If you had to guess what his takedown percentage is, what would you guess it is?
That he has taken down somebody? 0.
Yes.
Yeah.
So whether he'll take him down or not, yet to be seen. He hasn't taken anybody down yet. Now, whether that's through he hasn't attempted or it just hasn't worked, it doesn't go into.
Memory serves me right, and I could be wrong about this. I have never seen him attempt one. I've just seen him throw haymakers and knock everybody out he's faced. So if you have that strong of a striking game, you're not even worried about a takedown. I just think that Miocic is smart enough that that's what he's going to try working. If he can pull it off, he's going to win this fight. But I just think Ngannou has just got too much strength behind him, and if he starts throwing, the hands, it could be a very short evening. But I sense a third round knockout.
I'm going to say late second.
Late second.
Yeah.
For who?
Miocic.
Okay, so Miocic. You call a knockout on him. Okay.
Listen, we know heavyweight fights. They rarely, if ever, go to decision.
Very rarely. But no, you're right. No, I'm writing this down. I'm not saying it's a bad idea because Miocic can knock him out. Don't get it twisted. We're not saying he can't. I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying if you're making me choose, I'm taking Ngannou in that. And then after that, who knows? Heavyweight division is going to be kind of wide open after that. One division, though, which was just announced today, is going to get very streamlined in a hurry. The dream fight for 155 fans is finally signed, and I'm just saying, please stay healthy before the fight. Khabib, Tony Ferguson.
Oh, baby.
For the title.
Oh, baby.
It is rumored Conor McGregor is going to be stripped of the title, and I think if he has not defended or given any inclination that he wants to defend it at this point, give it up, and then when he's ready to come back, you can put him in a title shot. You got to put these two in a fight and see who the premier 155 light heavyweight champion is.
And the Conor McGregor count is 432 days as we record, since he last defended his title.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, you have to take the belt from him. You just can't let him hang on and hold your division up.
I know I've said this before. I can understand it, like his fiance, girlfriend, wife, significant other was pregnant and had a kid, and then there was the whole Floyd thing. I understand the family thing. I understand he went and did the other thing. But at some point, you got to come back and defend the belt.
Well, if you decide to go box, you should give up your belt.
Yes.
That is my opinion.
Yes.
JR, I don't know if you got a take on this.
You know me, I'm a big Conor McGregor guy. If it's boxing, if it's fishing, if it's MMA, it really doesn't matter to me. So I'd like to see him come back and win, more so because I'd really like to see him fight Khabib.
I would too.
That would be amazing. Even if Khabib's your champion, if they strip Conor and make Khabib interim or whatever the case may be, but I would love to see that fight, and I hope they can make it work.
I do too. I mean, that is the fight I've been waiting to see. I don't know if we're ever going to see it.
Will Khabib walk out with a bear?
Khabib could
If
do
it's
no
in Russia,
wrong.
yes.
Khabib will just come out there and just be ready to go. Because, like we said last week, Khabib said he just needs an hour rest and he'd be willing to fight Ferguson and McGregor in the same night. I fully believe him. Like, some people are like, yeah, we talk trash. No. I fully believe him.
Yeah. And I will send money for that to happen.
I think you do it outright. I think you'd be like, it could be a non-sanctioned fight out in the parking lot. I don't think he cares.
Well, I mean,
No.
just like at UFC 205 when you had your posses come walking out, you had Gregor, as far as his whole staff with the Burger King and everybody comes walking out. I'm thinking Khabib should walk out with a live bear, like holding his hand, walking him down to the ring, because he'd probably give him a hug and thank him as his sparring partner. I mean,
yeah. If you have not seen, there is footage of Khabib actually sparring with a bear when he was very young. It is on the internet. But if he says he does it, just watch him in the cage. He just straight up dominates. Tony Ferguson will give him a good fight.
Oh, yeah.
No question about that.
how many fights has Khabib lost?
0.
Bingo.
But I'm just saying Khabib is on a whole other level of just elite fighting status.
Before this last fight, actually, Khabib, I remember we watched, he broke his right hand
Yep.
in the middle of that fight and continued to throw. Didn't he get the knockout with that right hand?
They did a stoppage.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he's laying haymakers. Like he throws his broken right hand to the face, brings up, shakes it. He's like, "Oh, that hurt." Bam! Turn around, throws it right, drops the right hand again.
And just after the clinic he just did on Barbosa, I mean, and he just literally said, "I'm going to fight your fight and beat you at your own game," and he outright dominated.
Yeah.
Look at the scorecard.
Well, like you said, I mean, you know, as we've talked about before, like George St. Pierre, he's a master on the ground and submissions. Khabib is like, I can do whatever.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
I can learn this trick. Sure. I'll not beat with that. You want me to stand up and fist fight? Sure, we'll do that too. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, because I think if he gets the chance to fight McGregor, he's going to tear him apart.
Oh, yeah.
I think Conor will give him a fight, but I think Khabib is just on that other level.
I think if Khabib comes out with the same speed he did against Edson Barboza, Conor won't know what hit him.
We just need to pray that he can make it through the Ferguson fight healthy. And this fight actually
Yeah.
happens.
They just need to get to the cage healthy. Both of them do.
If they walk out of there they're just both destroyed, then we got to see it though. And it'll be TV must see the whole 9 yards.
I just need to see them fight. That's all I'm saying. And Tony Ferguson is going to show up and fight. There's no question he's going to show up and he's going to be ready to go. And I'm telling you, I'm excited for it because if anybody could give Khabib a good run, it's Ferguson. Ferguson is fighting at such a high level too This is a fight that we want to see as fans. I just want them to be healthy. It doesn't get called off because of something happening prior to the fight. I need this fight to happen.
Once they get to weigh in, somebody put them in a bubble.
We'll say like
Yeah.
one of those
Lock
giant
them
hamster
away.
balls.
Yes, lock them away. Strap them to a bed, something. Leave them there for a few days. You cannot let them trip or slip or fall or nothing.
Yeah.
They need to be carried around everywhere.
Just get room service at the hotels.
Yes.
Whatever you need to do to make this happen, this fight it's been signed. It's ready to go. It just needs to get there. I'm hoping it does because I've been waiting for this fight quite a while. This is not a Canelo Triple G fight, but this is up there.
Well, and it'll be good to finally get that division going.
Well, yeah, it's definitely the deepest division in all of the UFC, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah, and I mean, especially because I believe they booked Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje, too. So, the winner of that one's going to be in the title contention talk. Excuse me. See, I'm getting too worked up about the fight. Got to deal with it. And Eddie Alvarez is still floating around there, too. He's ready to jump in there, too. Look at how stacked the division is. That's just three names we just threw out there.
I'm looking at the division now, and in the top 9, I think, 10 if you count the champion, there's only 2 people in that top 10, as it were, that haven't fought. That's Conor and Nate Diaz.
Yeah, and we don't know when we're going to see those 2 fight again. Let us know what you think about that. Are you excited for the UFC this weekend, or are we just looking ahead to the Khabib-Ferguson fight? Let us know. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPH. We'll be right back.
Gonna take you all down. 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 Gonna take you all down.
Coming back on another segment of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. Going to talk a little NBA because we have something interesting happen on Monday night between the LA Clippers and the Houston Rockets. And the story there is not the final score. The story is the Houston Rockets players attempting to get into the LA Clippers locker room after the game and the fireworks that exploded between the two in the fourth quarter. Now, obviously, tension was already high going into this game because it was Chris Paul's first game against his former team, his first trip back to the Los Angeles. So there was obviously some intrigue and some tension there to start with. But things kind of exploded in the fourth quarter. Blake Griffin went up for a layup. He got fouled. Chris Paul got the foul when he ran up to him, and he ran up to the ref and was just incensed. Mike D'Antoni started yelling at Blake Griffin. Players started yelling back and forth at each other. You had Blake Griffin, Trevor Ariza got ejected. Trevor Ariza and Gerald Green have now been suspended 2 games. And according to reports, the Los Angeles Police Department was indeed also called to the Staples Center. Guys, I want to get your thoughts on this messy situation.
WrestleMania came early, I guess. This just sounds like a scripted fight to me, but honestly, this needs to be a rivalry that happens on the court.
Yes.
Off the court, really, I think it's a bad look for the NBA and both teams. I mean, to having fights in the locker room, like I'm sure, tensions are very high, but at the same point, both teams are supposed to be professionals. Granted, I did see some highlights of the game, and there was some very chippy and hard fouls.
Oh, yeah.
But you're playing with high emotion. If you can develop this into an actual rivalry, because I don't know if the Clippers have an actual rival team.
Not really. There's a couple teams that, people always have interest when they play them, but nothing on the same level as, like, say, the Celtics and Lakers.
Yeah. You know what? Then let this develop into one. You have the storyline already built in with Chris Paul leaving to go to Houston. Let them play it out and, build on that. I just think it's just a bad look. I mean, like, you had to call the LAPD to get involved because people are fighting in the locker rooms or trying to.
Yeah, supposedly they used a quote-unquote back hallway that linked the 2 locker rooms to try and get in there. And I guess Chris Paul and James Harden were not suspended because the NBA looked into it and they said about 20 people. And from what everyone said, Harden and Paul were peacekeepers. They were trying to stop Ariza and Gerald Green from being the real instigators of the post-game antics. So and that wasn't even the only crazy thing that night. You had the Raptors and 76ers playing each other, where you had Kyle Lowry and Ben Simmons got ejected, and they were mouthing at each other and pointing at each other, and the lip readers were saying, "Hey, I'll meet you in the hallway."
I guess tensions are running high in the NBA. I guess it's the only way I could interpret this.
Yeah.
Because if everybody's getting chippy, and I think there was something with Oklahoma City too.
Yeah, Russell Westbrook got ejected also, and Carmelo Anthony was quoted after the game saying, "I'm done with these refs."
It kind of takes away from the games, but if tensions are running high, as long as it translates into good games, I don't mind it. But the off shenanigan WWE stuff, I guess, because, if you're going through secret entryways to the other team's locker rooms and...
Yeah, there's some question about how they got in there because it was JJ Redick on Twitter, I think it was that night or early the next morning, had a funny tweet out. I think I need to do an emergency podcast and talk about the structure of the Staples Center.
I don't know. Like, to me, it just sounds...
Yeah, there was a crazy stat Monday night. Referees...
Bad.
There was a crazy stat Monday night. Referees in the entire NBA for that night issued 21 technical fouls and 5 ejections. Now, even the craziest technical foul was in the Brooklyn Nets game, where one of the players on the bench who was not dressed, did not play, was simply sitting there clapping, and the ref, for whatever reason, I'm not a player, I wasn't there, I saw the highlight, he was clapping, and the ref goes, technical. For a guy on the bench, in street clothes, clapping. Now, of course, there is a supposed, I don't know if this has actually been confirmed, but there's been talk of a meeting between the players and the referees during All-Star Week. I don't think that can come soon enough.
Probably not a bad idea at this point.
No, because this is, I understand there's chippiness in games, and if you're losing, you're getting blown out, you're not playing that well, you get a little frustrated, you get a little mad. But for this much in this short a time period,
yeah, this is, like we say, a lot of high tension, I guess. But if it translates to great games on the court,
yeah,
all for it. Sports is an emotional thing, but for all the post-game locker room nonsense, come on.
Yeah.
I'm
hoping it turns into something down the road, because if we see the Clippers and the Rockets play each other at some point in
I want to see that in the playoffs now.
Oh man,
yeah.
All of a sudden that meeting in the hallways got a little more interesting.
Yeah, just keep it on the court and let the emotions go there.
Oh yeah,
because that's where it'll translate. Any of this other nonsense, I don't know. I don't see a place for it. Jay, you got any thoughts?
Well, it was funny because I was watching the Dan Patrick show, and he said it best. It was funny because, of course, they were talking about the LA Clippers whole ordeal, getting in the locker room and everything. And Dan Patrick said it best. He's like, I've been saying this for years, that we need to just have a unisport octagon and just gets taken everywhere. He's like, if you really got beef, you settle it there, then you play your game. He's like, it works for all sports. NASCAR, they get out, they're mad, you wrecked me, you spun me. You know what? Go to the octagon, you get your 5 minutes, you come back out, do you feel better? Awesome. We move on. I mean, not that I'm encouraging that. I just thought it was funny. He's like, it's childish, it's petty.
Oh yeah,
just play the game. I understand you get heated, but come on.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, especially when you've got a guy of Chris Paul's caliber who's been in the league for feels like ever. You would think that he gets frustrated, he gets upset, but just everything that happened, boy.
And the thing is too is at least from my standpoint, you don't want things to get out of control.
No.
You know what I mean? Because you can look back in the NBA history and see some really bad things where fans start getting involved. And
Malice
it gets really,
at the Palace
just
rings a bell.
And it gets super messy, and then you really start running into problems. You know what I mean? Like, listen, you've got your frustration. It happens. I understand. I mean, granted, we played our high school games, pickup games. You get mad, bad calls.
Oh yeah.
You're like,
absolutely.
I'm going to clock you, man. That was.
I almost wonder
if
they need to put in something kind of like baseball will do, where one player will get hit with, or one batter will get hit with a pitch, and then the other team will throw behind him or throw at him, and then the umpire will come out and warn both benches and go, all right, enough of this. I almost wonder if the NBA needs something similar, like where it reaches a point where they go, okay, we can clearly see you two teams have issues with each other. We're warning you. Next time we're issuing technicals and you're shooting free throws.
But they already run into problems trying to figure out what's a flagrant foul and what's a common foul.
Yeah.
Hard fouls versus that. So now you're really starting to run into it. It's like, so if you make a basketball move, like you're swatting at the ball and you club him in the shoulder, now you're instantly ejected because I think, you missed. The guy moved wrong and now you're going to get ejected.
It's a catch-22 because I don't know if there's a right way or a wrong way. Just the referees, I think if they start seeing the more aggressive fouls, I'm not saying let's exclude flopping and that whole garbage there. Take it to what it is. If you see an overly aggressive foul, like you see a fight starting to brew, that's maybe when the refs should just go over to both coaches and say, listen, you need to calm your players down, pull them out of the, sit them down for a couple minutes, whatever you need to do to get them back on track. If you're talking to the players and they're still too wound up and too emotional, I think that might be your best case scenario. But I don't know if I don't think you can go into like the baseball mannerism because throwing at them. I mean that's just you're talking apples and oranges. I understand the concept, but I'm just saying I don't think that would resonate.
See, I like that idea though because like you said, if say you've got two guys, you start thinking names like Boogie Cousins, and they start getting a little rowdy in the paint, then the ref can just be like to the bench. Like they're just both they're instantly substituted out. Like you just make a point and it's like you got to go. Yeah. Just instantly you got to go sit down. You're not ejected. And if they call if they call equal technical fouls or whatever the case, the dual what are they?
Yeah,
double technical.
Double technical.
They get called a double technical, and then you both just have to go sit down. Or if there's no time limit, you can sit down for a couple plays or whatever, but you need to at least just get out. And it's just, you know what? You go sit down, you're done. Just go take a seat.
Or if
5 minutes.
Or if you need to do this, you charge a double technical to the team, not to the player. Because I think if you did it to the team, because I know with the rule, if you get so many technical fouls, you're suspended a game.
Yep.
If you do that to the team, and I don't know how you can divvy up fines and such to the team. But I think if you go over to the refs and I think if they see that, your players aren't listening, you got to go over to the coach and be like, pull them out. You got to sit. However you need to manage it if it gets to that point. Because if we're starting to see this kind of chippiness and overly aggressive fouling to the point where you're going to have something happen, then that's when the refs got to kind of step in. It's kind of a catch-22, though.
Yeah.
And because I have to go there and it's not practical, you can start doing the NHL approach, 5-on-4s.
All right.
Bye. 2 minutes, minor, to the bench, 5-on-4.
You could, but, hockey has a unique way of dealing with that kind of stuff.
That's not even close. It's totally far-fetched. But it would be kind of funny because you see somebody, like Boogie Cousins, that's a 2-minute tech. That's a technical foul. One that's a 2-minute. Sit on the bench, 5-on-4.
Yeah. No! Yeah, but, because then you got to look at like every single foul and like what the interpretation of the ref is.
I can only imagine they start doing that though. You get
it's
a
ref, power play.
5-on-4. Yes, they went on a 20-2 run.
Yeah,
epic.
It's like
their power play conversion rates to the roof would be epic.
We're having some fun with this topic, but let us know what you think. You think this past week's games in the NBA was a little too overly aggressive? What do you think would be a good remedy to kind of calm the players down if you see it start going to where it's going to be an off-court issue? Let us know. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPH. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Citoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Closing this week's ODPH with a special announcement before we start the local minute. Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire is going to be on the show next week. He is in the 607. He's going to be playing at McGurk's Irish Pub Thursday night, 8:30 to 11, and he's going to be playing at Ransom Steel Tavern, 8 to 9:15. So if you're in the 607, you want to hear the guy who is part of the band that you hear the music of every week here on the ODPH, go check him out. And Brian will be in studio next week, so keep an ear out for that. Going to the local minute, Pat, what you got?
So, little Binghamton Devils news. Friday, January 19th, they are on the road at the Springfield Thunderbirds. And then Saturday, January 20th, they will be at home against the Toronto Marlies. Game time 7:05.
Go check them out. And if you're not in the 607 area, you might catch them on TV. JR, what you got on that?
Oh, man. Actually, last week, I don't know if you caught it or not, against the Rochester Americans, they were on television.
Yeah.
MSG Plus.
Yes, I did catch the game.
Yeah, it was great. He's being able to see him on, flipping through the channels. I'm like, oh, a little AHL hockey. Cool, check it out. The 607 representing out there was great.
Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't come out on the W side, but it's a long season. But we're still proud to call them our own here in the 607. So check out BinghamtonDevils.com for more information on them. And Binghamton Bulldogs, I'll tell you what, they're on fire right now. They were winners on the 13th against the Pottstown Flames, 168-126.
Ooh.
And they are putting together an impressive record of 11-2, 8-1 in the division, 10th ranked in the ABA. You can't go wrong with that, folks.
That is impressive.
Yep, and they're going to be traveling to the Rock City Ravens on the 20th at 4 o'clock, and then they're back in the 607, home against the Wilkes-Barre Stars and Stripes on the 27th, 7 p.m. More information for them, BinghamtonBulldogs.com, and we're under 80 days away from the Rumble Ponies. 607 is coming alive in the 2018.
Pitchers and catchers, less than a month away.
Get ready.
Oh, boy.
So we're going to close out this week talking about those AFC and NFC title games for the winners to go on to the Super Bowl in a couple weeks. Pad, what do you got?
Well, AFC, I think it's rather obvious who I'm going to pick. New England. I think the thing everyone's forgetting, because everyone's like, oh, New England won't be ready for Jacksonville. They're too fast. Or, whatever reason they want to say. The thing everyone might forget, might not know, they did a joint practice with them in preseason. So they did practices for like a week or however long it is in the preseason. So I think Brady and crew will be more than ready for Jacksonville and ready to rock and roll.
JR?
This game really doesn't mean that much to me. But I think I'm going to go with New England. Just because they look nasty. And I really don't like saying that because I feel like we say it every single year and it's getting kind of old.
That defense is starting to click.
Yeah, I don't care about that either. I'm just tired of it because it's like, they're so good and there's just no downfall to them, and it drives me nuts. And I mean, as we've talked about before, do you trust Blake Bortles? He really didn't look, to be honest, he really didn't look that great in Pittsburgh. I mean, he did what he needed to, and I guess you could call it clutch, which is kind of hard to think that you would say Blake Bortles and clutch in the same sentence, but I think this is where that ride comes to a screeching halt, is at the hand of Bill Belichick and that Foxborough kind of vibe they've got going on up there.
Jacksonville is falling into the trap that Pittsburgh did. Does anybody remember after Jacksonville won, they got back to their stadium and players were already saying we're going to the Super Bowl?
Yep.
Now, didn't the Steelers fall trap to this?
In a sort of similar way, yes.
Yeah, because you overlook your opponent. And granted, you can be excited that you're in the AFC Championship title game. I fully get that.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? I can understand you can be excited and thinking, wait, we're on our way. You still have to face one team, though. Now, it is not my favorite team. It is Pat's. But you can't take away what they do up in Foxborough. No matter, you can love them, you can hate them. You can't take away stats, wins, and championships. That being said, Brady and company are going to be up for this game. Jacksonville will need to play a perfect game in Foxborough under the biggest spotlight that most of those players have ever been under. I don't see them pulling this one off. Pats are 7.5-point favorites. I think Brady is going to make a statement game, and I think if he can take full advantage of that defense, and granted, it is the nastiest defense still in that playoffs, I think Brady and company are going to be punching their ticket to Minnesota.
Well, I think the key for them is if they play that up-tempo, no-huddle offense they like to run sometimes.
They're going to come up with something, and I guarantee you that if they look, I don't want to say confused in the first half, they're going to make second-half adjustments like no other team does. And that's where I think Gronkowski really takes off for Brady and company, and I think that they wind up winning this one 27-14.
Okay.
That's my early prediction on that. Taking a look at the NFC, you have Philly, who is home again, who is an underdog again,
Yep.
to Minnesota. Philly, granted, did not look the best in the spotlight that they were in last week.
Nope.
Atlanta had opportunities. They didn't come through on them. Philly's defense stepped up to the challenge. Their offense played well. Didn't play great, but they played well. Going against a Minnesota team that has so much emotion and energy behind them, this is almost a pick-em in some degrees. I know JR is foaming at the mouth to get on here and give you his pick, so we're going to wait just a hair longer. But I got to say, I'm taking the purple juice. I'm fully sold on SKOL Nation winning this one. I think that Case Keenum is going to play a lights-out game because I think if anything, they learned don't take your foot off the gas on this one. And I think the storybook ending for Philly is unfortunately going to come to a halt. I'm going to say Minnesota 27, Philly 24. Pat?
I fear for the city of Philadelphia. Not because of how the game's going to go. Well, partially how the game's going to go. For those who hadn't seen, the stadium will be packed with those dog masks that the players were wearing on the field. So it's going to be an out-of-control situation. But then you had the story come out today that the City of Philadelphia Police Department is recommending nearby businesses be closed down for the game during the day because of how the game is going to go, win or lose. So I fear for the city of Philly. That being said, I'm with Ken on this one. I think that Minnesota will have learned from their mistakes in their game against New Orleans. They will not fall to the same traps. They will not let their foot off the gas. And if Philly wants any glimmer of hope, I think it's, they're in the same boat Jacksonville is in. That offense has got to be perfect. That defense has got to be perfect. Because one little mistake, one little trip, one little oops, I forgot to cover this guy when I should have been covering that guy, and Minnesota is going to exploit the heck out of it.
He's been waiting all episode for this. JR, the mic is yours.
Yeah, so let's just, before we get into the obvious, looking at the weather, because I'm a weather guy and we play in a dome in Minnesota. Conditions for Philadelphia on Sunday forecasted upper 30s, minimal chance of rain, not really much wind. Of course, everybody's talking about the field conditions, whatever. I pray all week long that the folks in Philadelphia are not getting their hopes up too high. We are a 3-point favorite on the road, which should be more than double. And I'm really excited because we're going to be the first team in NFL history to host the Super Bowl in our own home and be the away team. That's going to be awesome. So, to all my Philadelphia friends, the best man at my wedding, the man I will be watching this game with on Sunday, I'm praying for you. I appreciate the hospitality, but just know that the purple and gold is coming into your house. I'm going to raid your fridge. That defense, which is, quote, number 1 in the NFL for a reason. We're going to come in and take your cookies. We're going to steal your thunder. We're going to take that beautiful ride back to Minnesota and host the Super Bowl. You're welcome.
So my question to you, you're watching in the home of an Eagles fan on Sunday.
Yep.
Are you watching in different rooms?
Nope.
Oh, boy.
Nope. And that is a family that is entirely Eagles. I will be representing the purple and gold, the horns.
So you'll be in the heart
You
of
name
enemy
it.
territory.
Oh, you name it. Are you kidding me? If I could go to Philadelphia this weekend, I'd go. And I would be wearing purple and gold. However, I cannot. Unfortunately, but I would if I could, dressed in purple and gold. I have the horns, and I will be driving the SKOL Nation bus that no one has been leaving, and we're going to park it right in the center of that stadium and deliver the thunder that is that SKOL Nation defense. So I'm just saying you better be prepared. I'm thinking big win too, because that defense is going to come out. It's going to expose Nick Foles for the non-Carson Wentz that he is, and it's going to make Philadelphia really upset if we can actually get out of there on time. Because I think the flight might be delayed slightly if it gets messy like it did against the Saints. The only thing that stinks is that they can't take a flight home. They're already home. Because let me tell you something. That flight home for New Orleans was probably pretty brutal, and that's exactly what's going to happen to Philadelphia. The spread of this game is 3. Should be double. Should be a touchdown. I'm thinking big win, baby. Big win. You want to join me? I got a picture of the purple juice for Ken ready. He's got his SKOL Nation stuff ready to go, Pad. I'm sorry, but looks like we got a date in a couple weeks here, big fella.
It's going to be exciting games this week. I don't think you're going to want to miss those for anything. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. We're on iTunes. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on YouTube. We're on the website. But however you're listening to us, we definitely appreciate it. And thank you for listening to another edition of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour.